to put it into other words, it's how do you help people, again, the one that it's not connected to your church, how do you move them from awareness about your church to attending your church? And so when I say the top of the funnel, I'm talking about how do you reach people who maybe they're really, really far from God. We don't know their journey. We don't know their path. We don't know where they are spiritually. But let's assume that they're really far from God and they're not connected to a church, maybe never. And yet, can we connect with them? Because we've got good news.
Well, my name is Bart Blair, and it is my job to welcome you to another episode of the Missional Marketing Podcast. This is Season 4, Episode 18, the 142nd episode of our show. Thanks so much for tuning in. Our purpose with this podcast is to help churches grow by leveraging digital marketing and effective communications. And if that's what you're hoping to glean from today, I think that you're going to be really, really delighted with the content of this week's episode. Just a quick reminder that if you haven't yet subscribed wherever you listen to your favorite podcast, make sure that you do that. I also want to mention to you, if you listen on Google Podcasts and you haven't yet heard, Google Podcasts is going away in just a few months. Google announced, I think it's in April of 2024, that Google will no longer be supporting Google Podcasts. So if you happen to listen to the podcast on Google Podcasts, you might want to go check out the podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or Stitcher Radio or another place where you can listen to podcasts, maybe Amazon. Because you won't be able to listen on the Google platform anymore. All that being said, make sure that you subscribe so that you don't miss any future episodes. Well, today's episode of the Missional Marketing Podcast is actually a rebroadcast of a podcast episode that Jason Hamrock did a couple of months ago, back in November. Jason is the CEO of Missional Marketing and often the co-host with me on this particular podcast. He actually did a webinar, an online webinar with David Fletcher from Ex-Pastors. Ex-Pastors is not former pastors, it's executive pastors, expastors.com. And they had a really, really insightful conversation about how to move people from being aware of your church to actually attending your church. Isn't that what we're all looking for? We're looking for ways to leverage our digital marketing, our analog marketing, our old school marketing, any marketing and outreach that we do. We want to raise awareness of who we are as a church and move people along a journey to where they actually know us, like us, trust us, and actually walk through the doors of our church on a Sunday morning so that we can engage with them in incarnational ministry. And you're going to hear Jason's thoughts, his ideas on this, and some great insightful questions that David Fletcher asks him. So I just want to thank David and the team at Ex-Pastors for letting us repurpose this episode for our podcast. I think that you're really going to enjoy it. So without any further delay, here's Jason Hamrock and David Fletcher from the expastors.com webinar.
It's great to have you with us. Today, we want to talk about a top of funnel conversation about leveraging Google content in AI. Now, Jason, I went into the kitchen. I looked in every drawer. I couldn't find it. Tammy must have it hidden somewhere. A funnel. I couldn't find a funnel. So you're on your own. I love the topic of this. What is a top of funnel conversation?
Yeah. So to put it into other words, it's how do you help people, again, the one that it's not connected to your church, how do you move them from awareness about your church to attending your church? And so when I say the top of the funnel, I'm talking about how do you reach people who maybe they're really, really far from God. We don't know their journey. We don't know their path. We don't know where they are spiritually. But let's assume that they're really far from God and they're not connected to a church, maybe never. And yet, can we connect with them? Because we've got good news. And sometimes that good news is in the form of helping them where they are in their felt need issue.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Right? And so if we can connect with those people and bring awareness about the church, but more importantly, give them help and resource for their felt need problem and start to build some relationship and trust, then maybe they'll end up sitting in your church as an active, changed life member of your church because they've encountered Jesus.
And, I love your emphasis on that. It's not about people in the pew. It's about people who are engaged with Christ, your church has had an instrumental part in that happening. I love that emphasis. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I desperately care about people in the pew because they're still on a faith journey, and we want to help them. Maybe they haven't said yes to Jesus, so they got to deal with the cross. But then obviously some are, and they're following Jesus closely and learning how to do that. That's awesome. I get this conversation is just going outside the church walls, into the streets, into the community where people are hurting. And how can we get there? And so when I talk about top of funnels and the things we're going to talk about today, it's about using these tools to go reach the one ahead of the 99 that's sitting in your pews.
Right. Well, get us started. Where do you want to start with this?
Okay, so you know, if you're like me, you've been kind of wondering about and maybe even utilizing AI a little bit. And some churches, when I talk to pastors, they kind of give me that, no, we're not really ready to go there yet. I'm like, I get that, I understand it. And others going, yeah, we're totally embracing this. And everybody's in between in that spectrum of where you are with AI. And our team, because we're missional marketing and we really live in that digital space and helping churches connect, and we work with a lot of comms teams, we have just decided to go deep with AI tools, learning how to use AI tools to further the kingdom. Because just like the internet, it can be used for darkness and it can be used for light, and we're choosing to use it for light. So some of those tools
my interest right there. How do we use those tools well? I'm excited.
Yeah. So the when your lead pastor preaches, okay, so that happened a couple of days ago on Sunday. What do you do with that content? How are you leveraging that content for the greater good? And so I talk specifically.
Hold on. The answer to that for most churches is nothing.
Nothing.
I mean, the sermon's done. We've gone to lunch. I can't even remember what the message was about at 5:00 that night. Yeah.
Well, and what we do is we push it up on YouTube and call that good. Right. And maybe they go to your website. Maybe it's sitting on your website so they can watch that sermon. That's about it. So what I try to teach is going, well, if you think about it, that's the best content that was created all week, very likely, by your lead pastor.
Right.
And it's full of grace and truth. It's full of the gospel. It's full, and it helps people. So instead of just pushing it out on YouTube, which I would do because YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world, and it can be found on YouTube. And I would push it out on social media. Now, I wouldn't put your whole sermon on there, but I would do sermon clips, right? Sermon, maybe it's called sermon shorts, right? Like a 30-second clip of what your pastor said. That was like, oh, that was really impactful. What he just said spoke to that one, right? That unchurched person going, oh, they maybe needed to hear that. And so every week you should be doing those sermon clips, pushing them out on social media. But what about your website? Here's a little nugget. Out of all the platforms you use, and I hear churches go, oh yeah, we use YouTube. Awesome. We use social media. It's great. I go, what about your website? Well, our website's great. It's good. We put our sermons on there, but we don't really think more deep about that. And until I say this line, they don't really think about it. I said, you know what? It's the only digital tool you actually own. You don't own YouTube. You don't own social. Google owns YouTube. Meta owns Facebook and Instagram. And they can do whatever they want. You're just renting those platforms. The only thing that you own is your website, and you should be doing everything in your power to drive people to your website. As long as website's more than just a glorified brochure about your church. Turn it into a resource guide. Turn it into helpful content that's going to help people in your pews and outside.
Oh, Jason,
and what kind of content am I talking about?
On that one, I love it. I've gone to so many websites, even of some favorite schools, and they have no content there. It's all a big brochure, and it's like, certainly we have more to offer from the great teaching every Sunday.
I tell you, and this is where AI can come in, so I'll explain it. But let's talk about your kids page for a second, because I always start there because it's pretty easy. You go to the kids page, and then again, it's probably a couple of paragraphs about our kids ministry with maybe a couple of pictures. But what would be more impactful, that or a page that had that same information? Because that's important. You're going to talk about, we do screening on our volunteers and whatnot. Their kids are going to be safe. But what if it was also a resource guide for like how-tos, downloadable PDFs on like how to pray with your kids, how to teach them about Jesus. Well, here's one: how to talk to your kids about what the Bible says about gender identity. I mean, parents are looking for this stuff because their kids are learning about it. Well, what better spot than your website to have these amazing resources to speak to parents about these hot topics that they're dealing with? If you don't know them, go ask your children's or your student pastor, what are parents talking about? And put resources on that page that people can have access to. Maybe also put some testimonies, some stories of why this mom loves to bring her kids to your kids' ministry, how she feels safe, and her kids don't want to leave. They have such a great time, right? A web page that's more engaging.
I can think of some for the youth page, how to talk to your kids when they've broken up with their boyfriend or girlfriend. What do you do when the physical relationship, gets out of bounds? How do you not be a knee-jerk parent and walk with your kids in hard times?
Yeah. How to train them about the dangers of social media. I mean, so your website, we just, in my opinion, it's like we try to say, well, come to church and you're going to learn all this. Well, why can't we build up the tool we own to become a phenomenal resource guide and help people? Now, here's the kicker to all that. This is where it gets really fun. When I talk about lead generation, and I talk about top of funnel lead generation, I love it when I see on a church website where on the homepage and there's a plan a visit page. I can click on that plan a visit. Now I'm seeing some details I'm thinking about visiting your church. So I kind of have FAQ section, maybe a message from the pastor, some pictures, a testimonial or two, and then a form that says, hey, let us know your name, your email, your cell, and we'll send you some information to plan your visit. Because when they do that, you just captured a lead. Now in the marketplace and secular world, that's people crave. I mean, they spend lots of money trying to get those leads.
That was exactly, hold on just a sec. That was the question I was going to ask. So for let's say you had $100 million company, what do you think that company is going to spend for every new lead?
Oh, gosh.
$100?
No, way more than that.
Way more
than that. Yeah, because you think about all the employees that are focused on that lead generation, all the technology, all the ad spend, way more than that. Yeah.
Okay.
But it becomes a lifetime member. I mean, I actually know some stats on Mercedes-Benz, and they spend tons of money trying to get there. But here's what's cool about Mercedes-Benz. They spend thousands and thousands of dollars acquiring a new customer. They only spend about $700 to $800 on their existing customers to turn those people into their best marketing efforts. Those are the people, their own people who drive a Mercedes, go out and share it with their friends, and they're the best marketing engine they got because they're brand evangelists, if that makes sense. They love their car and they share it, and that creates new customers for Mercedes-Benz. So think about that. Why did I say that? You really want to focus on building your website to be that lead generator that I just talked about. But then if you do it right, you've got a ton of people sitting in your pews. And if you equip them well, they can invite and bring their friends, families, neighbors, coworkers, because you want to leverage the people who go to your church to be brand ambassadors for your church, and you can use digital tools for a lot of that.
So it's a both and.
Absolutely. Yeah. But when I think about that kids page I was talking about, if it's like a really good, if you have something on your website that's write an article and you put it in there and people Yeah, in order to get that PDF, there's a name and an email. Like fill out your name and email. Let that go for a few months. You're like, wow, this is working really well. We're getting some good leads about that, huh? Well, then maybe you start promoting that, right? So I think when I think about the funnel, it's about people that find out, it's awareness of who you are, the very top of the funnel. Some people will go, that's great, and they're going to leave. Okay. But some are going to go, I'm going to click and learn more about this church. And that's all they're going to do. That's fine. But some will actually fill out a form. Okay, now you got people that have filled out a form. Some will show up, some won't. But the people who show up, is you give them, it's how do we get people and how do we track that member engagement? And there's a lot of great AI tools to help you with this, which I can speak into on how do you build all this out. But it's just the idea of understanding that you've got amazing content every single week, and we are not leveraging it to its fullest extent that it could be leveraged.
And then the caveat is you have to respond to those people. So we were at a hotel recently in Orlando, and they sent us an email and they said, hey, would you like to come to our restaurant? And I tried to fill out their form online. It was broken in Safari. Maybe it worked in Chrome. I don't know. But Safari is on 60% of all, mobile devices.
Yeah.
And so I just replied to the email. I said, yeah, we're interested. They never got back in touch with me. Another story is I've tried 3 different times to subscribe to a favorite church's e-newsletter. And after the second time, I contacted the XP, who's a friend of mine, and he contacted the team and they said, yeah, they're really busy right now. And that sign-up form is broken. So I've tried 3 times.
I cringe at that. I cringe at because it's like, are you so busy of doing programming for the 99 you're not thinking about the one?
Well, I mean, I was that prospect. I was interested, and I'm trying to connect. For the restaurant, it was probably going to be $100 meal or something. It was a nice restaurant, maybe more. So how many of those do you have to lose before you feel the pain?
Yeah. It's
so how do we leverage Google and content and AI to do all this?
Yeah. So this is kind of cool. And I'm not going to be able to, if any of you ever want to reach out to me and have me demo this for you, I would gladly do it. I do it for your team. But I'll give you like a perfect example. Let's say this past Sunday, pastor preached. Okay, so now you got that video and you uploaded it to YouTube. Did you know that in YouTube, in the bottom right corner of that video, there are 3 dots. You click on those 3 dots and it's going to say show transcript. You can get the transcript of that sermon. You used to have to pay for that. Google or YouTube just made it free. So you get that you get that transcript, copy it. Okay, now it's a transcript. So it's all of his words that he preached, all 3,000 words or so. Now, you're not going to just take that and pop it on your website. You could. But instead, what you can do is go to this AI called Claude, CLAUDE.ai. Claude's a very intelligent, fairly new AI. You can copy that transcript in YouTube, paste it into AI. You got to go sign up. It's free. Get an AI account. A Claude account, you paste that transcript into Claude. You just literally paste it. Yeah, you have to sign up if you're not signed up.
There it is. Got it.
There it is.
Good. Yep. I'm gonna bookmark that.
Yep. And then you tell Claude, please write me a 1,500 word blog post on this transcript. Enter. And in about 1 minute, you're going to have a very intelligent 1,500 word blog post that summarizes that whole sermon. Pretty cool. Then you can say to Claude, please write 6 small group questions regarding this transcript, and it'll spit out 6 questions for you to do. Keep going. You can say then, please write social media posts based on this transcript, and it'll spit out Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn, and it'll give it to you. and it'll just spit it out. Now, could you have done that on your own? Absolutely. And I would not just copy and paste those things I just mentioned, but I'd read through them and go, it's pretty spot on. Okay, I might tweak this word, I might change that word. But it's not pulling it from the internet. It is looking at that content and quickly summarizing. That's the power of AI. It just speeds it up for us. And now what we can do is we've got a really clean, blog post. We can put that into our website. We can maybe make it a PDF that's a downloadable. In fact, I'll ask pastors, because I get to talk with lots of lead pastors, hey, you ever think about writing a book? They're like, love to, I just don't have time. I go, yeah, if you got the content. Pastors in the past have asked us to take their 4 or 5 or 6 week sermon series, based around like a marriage sermon or a family sermon series. You could easily do this. You do what I just did, what I just said, and you take all those posts, you just stitch them together, and now you've got an ebook that you can give away on your website for a name and an email in exchange for an ebook. And you design this ebook to look like a real book. Pastor and his wife on the cover, and how to divorce proof your marriage in 3 steps. I don't know, whatever that is, right? And it looks like a real book that they're downloading, and they're getting a PDF in exchange for a name and email, maybe even a mobile. And now you've just created a lead generator, and it's helpful content that people need. So,
what kind of cost is there with Claude? Do you know?
That's changing. It was free, but as of last week, I was in Columbus, Ohio, at a road show because we're involved with church communications and we're part owners, and so I was up there meeting with about 20 church communication directors, and I learned last Thursday that Claude just started to make a subscription level, so it's still pretty cheap, but it was free. You could just kind of do all that stuff for free. But I think now they are charging a little bit, and just get used to that, because that's what you're going to have to start doing, because they've got to make some money somehow to pay their bills. But it's really relatively cheap.
Well, Zoom started offering summaries of meetings. And so I clicked it on a number of meetings, and some were spot on. And they summarized the discussion really well. One was so off, it was just humorous. But I would say 3 out of 5 needed really minor editing if I was going to use them. So, and that was just some dictation and summary of the meeting with action points at the bottom, of which I was really impressed with. Okay, David's going to do this, Jason's going to do that. It's like, wow, that's pretty good.
Yeah. So I've used Claude. I wanted to learn about this, and I'm in the church communication space. Like, that's my background. I did that for 11 years, and that's just my things are all been church communication. So I use Claude to write I'm really curious. Write a church marketing plan. I'm telling you, 90% of that I would have used. I'm like, that's spot on. Now they're not pulling. It's just, what it does is it just goes and it crawls and it looks and it just puts it all together for you. So it's not like I have to source that to say, oh, that came from this website, or I don't know. But I'm telling you, I was impressed with how accurate that was. And it was really, really good.
What I like about that is we all get kind of in a style. And after a while, I get bored with my own writing. It's like, okay. And that would give me a fresh approach that I could diverge from, but it'd be a nice starting point. Those are great ideas, Jason.
Yeah. There's some other really cool AI tools. If you really wanted to go deeper, we were talking about the sermon. There's I think it's called 11labs.io or .ia or AI. I'm sorry, .ia. Let me double check what it is. But 11 Labs is a really, really cool platform. 11labs.io. You have to spell out the number 11. 11labs.io. This tool is really cool. You can upload a video, a sermon, and then you can have it translated to almost any language you want. And it is so spot on that it makes your pastor look like he's speaking Portuguese.
Wow.
So if you've got like a global type of ministry, or you got people in your community who are bilingual, they speak lots of languages, you can turn your sermon into any one of these right here you're seeing on the screen. And it is so spot on. I got a church in Nashville that's doing it. You can't tell. You know, it reminds me of those foreign films where you're like,
let's hear the voice, shall we?
Yeah.
Well, it's coming.
It might take a second.
Yeah, it'll take a second.
But the difference is
realistic speech with the most advanced AI voice model ever. Clone your voice. Oh,
sweet. I didn't know of this one.
La dificultad yace la oportunidad.
That's a great
but
one.
Here's a cool thing about 11 Labs. It's not another voice. It's your pastor's voice. Isn't that nuts?
That
It almost
nuts.
makes like, I didn't know you could speak Portuguese, you know, or something like that.
I didn't either.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, it goes back to, well, are we misleading people? No, it's about just how do you use these technologies if you want to really connect with people in their community. So it's not a translator. It literally is just, it's so powerful. Of course, there's a lot of great AI tools that will help you with graphics and create graphics for you. There's just so much advancement in this space. Video, it can do a lot of video. So I just try to keep it simple for churches to recognize your content is one of the best things that you have every week, and just to leverage that to put that on your website in easy ways is something that every church should do.
Hold on. Am I really talking to Jason right now? Or is this like an AI conversation?
Is this also, I start twitching? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's the real me. You pinch me, I cry.
Those are good tools.
Yeah. That's been a big push of ours. So we just launched this an AI tool of our own called SermonSpark.ai. Sermon Spark is a tool that's helps pastors with their sermon prep. And so the idea is you can use AI to help you kind of come up with titles of your sermon. If you want to talk about joy, it'll give you all kinds of examples of titles. It will help you with if you really want to get deep into tell us some scriptures that are around the concept of joy. It'll do that. It will give you like an outline. If you want like a bulleted outline based on what you want to talk about, it'll do that. It's really, really powerful. We've built this for pastors who preach. We're continuing to work on it because I want to flip it on the other side, that once you've preached, now you can use it to spark your sermon out into the community and promote it. So it's completely free, right? So use it as much as you want. Go to sermonspark.ai and sign up, and that's one of our tools that we launched earlier this year. We got, I don't know, like 700 pastors using it right now or something like that. So we're pretty excited about it.
Yeah, and I like your emphasis there on Spark. Hey, we're just giving you some ideas to get started with. I mean, every writer knows that, and there's a lot of book tools out there that people used to use, not much anymore, just here's a topic and here's some angles to go at it.
It's not meant to write out your whole sermon. Like, if you're doing that now as a pastor, I kind of cringe a little bit about that, just a little bit, because we got to let the Spirit speak in and through us. But you're going to be spending that time preparing. If we can shrink that down using digital, AI tools and give you more time in your day to do more ministry, that's a blessing. And that's why we created it and we built it. It wasn't to replace people. It was to enhance what you're currently doing and and speed it up a little bit so that you can have more time to do other ministry things.
Jason, let me say this for those who are listening live. If you have a question on this, please use the chat box, and I'll be happy to ask your question to Jason.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got a couple of things here. The AI, good. How are we going to leverage Google on all this?
Well, it's kind of fun because with Google, so you're talking about your website in particular. Your website won't show up on search engines because their content is the most important thing there, right? And so if you want to be inside of a search result when it comes to, marriage or parenting or even faith, like right now, if you're listening to my voice, just go ahead and Google like, who is Jesus? See what pops up. Right? If you're sitting on your campus and you type that in, like how to know Jesus or who is Jesus, you just want to learn about Jesus. You might be surprised on what you see. So that's kind of cool. You got a glue sponsor. He gets us.
Yeah.
Right. Got questions.
This is not where I want to learn about who Jesus is from Britannica.
I would not want to learn there. Yeah. Got questions, I think, is a pretty good site. Some
Nice.
ministries, Bible. Yeah.
So what do we do if we want to be more well-known for that?
Yeah. Content. So Google can only crawl content on your website. They can't crawl images or colors or videos. They can't crawl any of that stuff. They can only crawl content. And so I'm always encouraging churches that content that's being preached, that's being created, student ministry, children's ministry, obviously big people, adult ministry, like in church on Sunday, leveraging that content getting on your website is the best thing that you can instruct your comms teams to do, because that will give your website more rank or domain authority. Without it, you're never going to show up. But so you ever wondered why, I get this, I don't like when I receive these requests, but a church will call me and say, can you help? Like, what's going on? Well, our pastor just had a moral failure or something happened and it just got out. Literally somebody, submitted that to the newspaper. It's now number 2 or 3 or 4 right there at the top. When you Google our name, that article's right there. How do we get rid of it? I'm like, you're not. Good luck. The reason why that article, it's not because Google's looking out to take you down. It's because that newspaper or that, TV show or the TV station or whatever, as soon as they put it on their website, they have such high rank authority that it's going to instantly crawl up to the top of Google. Okay. And the only way to really push that down is to, put stuff on your website and get more content on your website to try and push that article down because you're pushing other articles ahead of it. And the reason why I say that is because those kinds of, newspaper websites and TV, news websites or radio, they have such high rank authority because they're constantly adding content. They're adding articles to their website every day. We're not. Yet we have phenomenal content. You think about it, you have 52 weeks of content that you could be putting on your website to give yourself a higher rank authority. So if you actually have a sermon on Jesus, which I would think you do, you could put that in there. In fact, I would challenge everybody, where do you have a page like Meet Jesus, right? Where you actually walk them through the gospel and you have content on that page. That's what you should be building so that can rank in Google, because that traffic is there, but your website's not showing up because we don't really take that seriously. Maybe we don't know what to do.
It does make me think. I had an email. I get a lot of emails, and the website for ex-pastor, it's all free. We get maybe 500,000 visits a year, which for a micro niche site, I'm very happy about.
Great.
Somebody sent me a question. They said, hey, I found this webinar in a Google search and I wanted to call it Jason, right? It's like, I don't remember doing that webinar with Jason. It's like, when did that happen? And I looked and it was like 5 years ago. And so I connected them and they were very pleased and they were able to start some sort of dialogue relationship. And I just thought the power of searching. They had a very specific search that they wanted, and up popped ex-pastor, pretty high in the rank.
I tell you, it is the coolest thing with some of the churches that we get to serve, and we give them, we walk them through this strategy and we help them out through the strategy. When I look at their analytics and I see that their homepage is about the 6th or 7th most visited page, I jump for joy. Why? The other pages ahead of that homepage are blog posts that are ranking so well because they took the time to actually build it right. They're getting all kinds of organic traffic. That didn't cost the church anything other than to set it up. And all, these blog posts on like how to reduce stress, to how to have a happy marriage, to, how to know who Jesus is. And you're just going, this is amazing. Every day you're getting more organic traffic to your website. And they're adding lead gens on those. They're adding like, download this, plan a visit, meet our pastor. Like it's just awesome. And so that's when I talk about leveraging content. Most common people tell me, I just don't have time, Jason. I can't. How am I going to do that transcript and write that blog? I don't have time. Well, with AI, you could literally do it in like 2-3 minutes a week, and you got yourself everything you need to go ahead and post that, and now you're onto something.
So I like that because that gives all of the unique, distinctive material that our church has created instant accessibility with maybe 5 minutes of proofing, make sure it's all right and the AI didn't mess up. Okay. But still, that compared to writing it or transcribing it yourself for 3 or 4 hours,
it's amazing.
And then all of the search engines will be able to see, so I type in, if MM was a church, I type in MM church and it'd be like, whoa, you got a lot of stuff there for me.
Yeah. I tell you, another little nugget. Here's how you can use servant leaders, volunteers in your church, is write out what you want them to do and have them go back in time. So when you have your video, your sermon, hopefully it's on its own page, you can add all that content underneath. And they could go back in time 4, 5, 6 years, however long you want to go. You don't need to do that. Tell them, go find the YouTube video, grab the transcript, clean it up in Claude, create this, proofread it, post it. You're done. Move on to the week before. It just go on. If you did that and you had a servant leader who probably would love to do something like that, I mean, come on. That's awesome right there.
I heard you right. So every sermon video should have its own page. Is that so it's more searchable?
Correct. Yep. So every sermon should have its own page, because then in the URL you can label it what it is. In the title you can label it what it is. Then you've got that sermon, right? Because they're going to watch the whole sermon. Maybe those sermon little clips, you could add that to it. Then you could have that content we just talked about. That blog post could be right there, because Google can crawl that. They can't crawl those videos, but they can crawl that content.
That's good material.
Yeah.
Hey, we have 2 more minutes. Give us one more.
Now that you're starting to really build up content, now you want to get more traffic. So organic traffic is great. Leveraging your people to share those pages is great. You can also use, if you haven't used the Google Ad Grant, there's a free great resource, and you're going, what's the Google Ad Grant? Well, go ask your comm team, but Google will give you, if you're a 501c3, give you up to $10,000 a month in paid Google search advertising. And so we get to leverage that for a lot of churches and helping them drive traffic to those pages I was just talking about. And now you got people in your community, there's an ad at the top, click, and now they're on that website, on that page, and engaging and learning about you. It's a great strategy.
So that ad grant is open to churches.
It's open to churches. Correct. Yep.
Are many churches making use of it?
I think we serve close to like 400 churches or something like that are utilizing it. And then I know a lot of churches that utilize it. It's one of those things where as long as you're a 501c3, IRS you got your documentation letter, you'll get the grant and you can use it. And there's no money exchange. It's just use it. And then, like in 1 month, like in November here, this is November 2023, we're doing this, great. You spend as much as you can at $10,000. Sometimes you spend all 10, great. December 1, it goes back to zero, and you try to spend $10,000, back to zero, $10,000. It never stops. You don't have to reapply. Never stops.
Really?
$10,000 a month.
Well, Jason, we should be charging for this webinar then. You've just given away a lot of money.
Yeah, it's a great tool. I mean, I love talking to pastors about how to really leverage it and use it. Because again, it's just let's get in Google, let's get in front of people who are looking for help with.
See, I always thought it was like for 3 months or 6 months, but ongoing in nature. And Google it's about just their goodwill and wanting to do good, as their motto is, supposedly.
No, it's really clever on why Google does this. So they're willing to give you free money because they make more money on the back end. Let me explain. Explain. So let's say you got you have a care ministry that has a couple of pastors, and they love to meet with people. In fact, they'll meet with a married couple to help them through their marriage, right? They go to your church and they want to meet. So here comes missional marketing, or you got somebody there that's going to help promote that. So we run an ad, and it's about a marriage ministry, free counseling, marriage ministry, right? At our church. Click here to learn more. And we use the Google ad grant to advertise. Awesome. Well, what Google's hoping is that there are other, groups in your community who do that for a living and are willing to, they're paying Google money to advertise because they can charge insurance or they can charge the couple. So they're advertising for like marriage counseling. Here comes your church using the Google ad grant to advertise marriage counseling. You just created more competition for that keyword in that space. The cost per click goes up. So yeah, your cost per click is going to go up, but your money's free. They have to also pay more money, but they're paying Google money. So they're making more money from the people who are paying money by giving you free monopoly money.
I like that for a creative business model.
Genius. Oh, they're making millions and millions of real dollars by giving us millions and millions of fake dollars. I don't have a problem with it because we want to use it to leverage the kingdom and help people know who Jesus is and connect with the local church, right? So let's do it. So that's why they do it. I mean, it's a tax write-off, but that's why they do it.
30% of that's going to go to Apple anyhow.
Yeah, I mean, Google, it's a love-hate relationship, right? But let's utilize it to shed light and let people know about you and about your ministries. And that's an amazing tool to use, that Google Ad Grant.
So Jason, we're about out of time. So land the plane for us. Give us what's the take-home idea?
Take-home idea. Number one is understand that content is so important. It's critical in this space. And if you're not leveraging your content, which you probably are not, change that. And it doesn't cost much money at all, if any money. Just take some time because you can leverage AI tools. Don't be afraid of AI. Learn about it. And it's one of those things where it's not going away. We're already using it. I use Grammarly every day because I don't want to look like I don't know what I'm doing. I'm typing, right? We all use it. That's an AI tool. So learning about AI and embracing it, not just going, no, it's evil, it's evil, evil, evil. It can be. It itself isn't evil, but the way people use it will be. But we can use it for good. So content is critically important. AI is a great tool to speed things up and just learn about those tools so that we can go after the one over and over and over again.
And Jason, you made available a free call. I would encourage anyone to make use of the free call because that's a great opportunity to get to know you better and just see what kind of relationship and get you to give them some input on their own website.
I would love it. I always offer an hour consultation. Let's just talk about your pain points, your gaps, how we might be able to help you, point you in the right direction. We do that all the time and it's a blessing. So you can send me an email at jhamrock@missionalmarketing.com or go to missionalmarketing.com and I can be found on there as well. But I'd love to meet with you and just help you answer some questions about AI or what I just talked about, this funnel. and how do you leverage it to bring more people into your church?
A free consultation is always money well spent.
It is money well spent. Yeah. It's
Jason,
for
thank
me,
you
it's
so
time
much.
well spent. I love to help churches, so take advantage of it.
Jason, thank you so much for being my guest today. As always, a great time with you.
Well, David, thanks for putting this on, for this platform, and for your ministry into helping people like us get better at what we do to reach more people. So it's a privilege and honor to be on today. Thanks for having me.